Welcome to the channel. With reference to our discussion on the speedometer of automobiles, motorcycles, and scooter, our today's subject of discussion is ink for dial printing of speedometer and its quality. The discussion will include the topic of ink for dial printing of speedometer, quality requirements of the ink, that is UV resistance, heat resistance, abrasive resistance, chemicals resistance, color accuracy and contrast, adhesion to substrate to the dial, and night visibility and backlight, environmental endurance, and with special reference to printing method compatibility, and finally comparison of printing methods. स्पीडोमीटर डायल प्रिंटिंग के लिए इंक क्या है, इंक की क्वालिटी क्या होनी चाहिए? The quality of ink used for dial printing in analog speedometer is a critical requirement, is very important. It directly impacts readability, durability, and long-term aesthetics of the speedometer face. These are very important characteristics. Since analog speedometers rely entirely on visual cues, that is needle, the numbers on a dial, tick marks, any degradation of ink can impair functionality and user safety. Quality requirements is ink की क्या है? Let us discuss one by one. Number one, UV resistance, that is ultraviolet ray resistance. The speedometer dial is constantly exposed to sunlight, especially in motorcycles. सूरज की गर्मी के सामने स्पीडोमीटर ज़्यादातर वक्त के लिए रहता है, तो ink must resist UV fading over years of use. Poor quality ink will fade, especially red, orange shades, making the speedometer unreadable. The test to be conducted is through the use of UV aging chamber for accelerated exposure, that is 1000 hours, that is 5+ years equivalent. And then we shall check whether the printing fades away or not. The second important requirement, वो क्या है? Speedometers operate in hot enclosed cockpit, especially in summer. Ink should not discolor, melt, or bubble under temperature up to 85 degrees centigrade or more. Therefore, the test is bake the dial at the elevated temperature and observe ink stability to determine whether the speedometer dial is it's okay for heat resistance characteristics or not. Third important test is abrasion resistance. During assembly, maintenance or cleaning, the dial may be touched or wiped. Therefore, the ink should not scratch off or be affected by mild rubbing or contact. जरा सी रगड़ के साथ या कॉन्टैक्ट से स्याही रबिंग से खराब नहीं होनी चाहिए, स्क्रैच नहीं होना चाहिए. It should be tested. Dry and wet rub test using standard erasers or cloth with force applied. Fourth test is to confirm the quality of the ink is chemical resistance. Writers may clean with alcohol, polish, or mild detergents. Therefore, ink should resist bleeding or smearing when exposed to isopropyl alcohol, mild detergent solutions, sweat, or rain. The test is swab the dial with chemically soaked cotton and check for reaction. Number 5. Color accuracy and contrast. Ink must provide high contrast between dial backgrounds and markings. Very important for readability. For best readability, white or yellow ink on black background for night readability. Red zone for RPM or overspeed warnings. The color must remain consistent across batches. That is very important quality characteristic requirement. Number 6. Addition to substrate. Ink must bond strongly to the dial material, typically polycarbonate or ABS plastic. Test. Use crosshatch tape test to check for ink flaking or peeling. Hopefully, we shall be discussing crosshatch tape test in details in some other video. Number 7. Night visibility with backlight. Ink opacity and translucency must be tuned. That is, some inks should allow light to pass through, that is translucent. Other must block light, that is opaque characteristics. Backlight diffusion must be even across printed areas. Poor ink behavior causes hot spots or uneven glow at night. Number 8. Must survive humidity, dust, condensation, and temperature cycling. Test is cyclic humidity test, that is at 40 degrees centigrade, 90% relative humidity for 240 hours. Number 9. Printing method compatibility. Ink must match printing method. Printing methods. Most common printing methods are pad printing, screen printing, ultraviolet digital printing. Each method requires inks with specific viscosity, drying times, and adhesion properties. Here is the comparison of the different printing methods. Number 1, pad printing. Pad printing is an indirect offset printing process where a silicone pad transfers ink from an etched plate to a 3D or uneven surface. Remember, this is most suitable for uneven surface. Screen printing, a technique where ink is pushed through a mesh screen stencil onto a surface best suited for flat or slightly curved items. UV digital printing, a non-contact method that uses digital files to jet UV curable inks directly onto the surface, cured instantly with UV light. Here is a comparison of printing methods for speedometer dial applications. Number one, characteristics or aspect, print quality. Pad printing is high resolution on irregular surfaces. Screen printing is very good, sharp lines on the flat surface. UV is very high photorealistic on flat surfaces. Suitability for curved and or 3D surfaces. Pad printing is excellent. Screen printing is poor. And UV digital printing is somewhat limited. Legibility under backlight. Legibility characteristic of pad printing is good. Screen printing is excellent. And UV digital printing is good. Durability, especially related to abrasion, ultraviolet, and chemicals. Good with proper ink and curing. Excellent with correct ink systems. And very good UV inks are highly durable. Number 5. Color accuracy and consistency. In case of pad printing, it is good, limited by pad wear. In case of screen printing, it's very consistent in runs, and of course, excellent as it is digitally controlled output. Fine detail capability. Pad printing. In case of pad printing, very good. Sharp, fine lines. In case of screen printing, moderate mesh limits resolutions. And in case of UV digital printing, excellent, more, more small fonts and graphics. And number 7, setup time and cost. In case of pad printing, setup time is medium as pad is needed. In case of screen printing, setup time is high, screen preparation for each color. In case of ultraviolet digital printing, setup time is very low, only digital file is required. Production speed. Pad printing is fast for small to medium volumes. Screen printing very fast for large volumes, but UV digital printing is slower for large batches. Number 9, flexibility for customization. In case of pad printing, it is low. In case of screen printing, low as the screens are fixed. And in case of UV digital printing, it's very flexible. Quick design changes are possible. And what about initial investment? In case of pad printing, initial investment is moderate setup cost. In case of screen printing, high equipment and screen cost. And in case of UV digital printing, high printer cost but low running cost. Best use case, pad printing is best for small curved dials in moderate quantity. Screen printing is best for flat dials for mass production. UV digital printing, prototyping, custom dials, and short runs. Recommended summary. Pad printing is ideal for 3V curved dials e.g. molded speedometer bezels, screen printing, best for flat tiles, high durability, and high volume runs. UV digital printing, best for custom, low volume, and prototype dials with detailed graphics. For dial printing of speedometers and similar instrument panels like tachometers, clocks, etc., the most widely used printing method is pad printing. Here is the infographic of the comparison of printing methods for speedometer dial application. It can be used as poster, and we have already discussed it in detail. We have mentioned one word, that is printing plate, or in French, we call it cliché. Cliché or printing plate is a thin plate made of steel or polymer that holds the engraved or etched image of the design to be printed. It serves as the ink holding surface in the printing process. The cliché is coated with ink. A doctor plate removes excessive ink, leaving ink only in the engraved areas. A silicon pad presses onto the cliché, picks up the inked image, and then transfers it to the curved or irregular object, like a speedometer dial. The material used for this plate is one is steel cliché. It is durable, used for high volume production, and the other material is polymer, which is cheaper and easier to make and ideal for small, medium runs or prototyping. The 10th important quality characteristics of the ink for the dial printing is regulatory and safety compliance. The ink must meet ROHS and REACH compliance. No toxic metals or banned chemicals be used in the preparation in the manufacturing while manufacturing the ink. Should not release VOCs, that is volatile organic compounds, harmful during the manufacture or use. Now we come to the summary of the key ink properties to test. Number one, as we have discussed, UV resistance, xenon arc or QUV testing as per ASTM G154 standard. Heat resistance at 85 degrees centigrade bake test according to ISO 188. Abrasion resistance ISO 105-X12 or dry rub test. Chemical resistance wipe test with IPA and detergent. Adhesion cross-hatch test as per ASTM E3359 standard. Color matching spectrophotometer delta E less than 3. Opacity translucency backlight test with lux meter. We shall be discussing these tests in detail in some other video. With this, we conclude our discussion on the subject of ink for for the dial printing of speedometer and its quality. Please do drop your comments and share your experience to further improve the contents of this channel. Thank you and thank you very much.